Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello. We are going to be talking about environmental education materials and connecting children on conservation and the natural world with my guest, Julianne DiBlasi. She is owner, artist, and author at Kraken Sky and founder of the Creative Brains Grow Here project. She is an internationally recognized award-winning graphic designer. Her digital art has been published in Comic-Con International's souvenir book, Art 278, and Trade and Travel publications. She is author of over 25 books, including Nature Unboxed, Wildlife Unboxed, A Florida Pirate's Wildlife, and many more. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here.
It's going to be impossible for us to talk about your hundreds of activities that you present, puzzles, games, science experiments, and all the different kind of wildlife that you have covered. Your books talk about the Florida Keys, but you come to California and talk about Channel Islands. So many different kinds of activities, and your drawings are so cute for both adults and children.
Yeah.
How do you decide what to talk about, what to present, whether or not it's how fossils are formed, or how we find and deal with a stranded turtle, or what kind of butterflies we might enjoy in the gardens and when we take nature walks?
It's kind of been a long and winding road in a lot of ways, putting all of it together. My background is in fine art and in graphic design, and then I had my daughter. And when you have kids, everything kind of shifts. You start seeing everything as a toy, and why is it made like this? And how come the packaging is so frustrating? You start to see all these different things that you've never seen before. And one of the things that I really noticed was that the children's book and the activity books, there's a lot of coloring and connect the dots, but there's not a lot of education. And I felt like it was truly a missed opportunity. If you have a child that's excited about drawing, excited about working on a puzzle, excited about doing like a word search or filling in the blank kind of a thing, you can teach them something at the same time. It doesn't have to be just color the dolphin. It could be color the dolphin and help them find their way home with a little map and show where the dolphins typically gravitate to. So I began kind of this jumping around places that I had lived before. I lived in California a long time, Florida a long time, New England a long time, the desert a long time. And so I've been able to kind of remember my experiences there, remember the amazing wildlife and the things that I found super interesting, and then put them together to present them for children.
There are literally millions of species of animals that you could choose from. You have done some drawings of bees and horseshoe crabs, harbor seals, mangroves, sea turtles, bighorn sheep. Is there an animal that's easier to present and teach about? And is there an animal that you haven't shown yet but plan to?
Oh my goodness. Every time I create a book, there's always somebody that ends up on the cutting floor. Activity or some idea that I have that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to save that for the next book. I can't cram it into this one. The mind kind of goes down rabbit holes. I'll start researching dolphins, and then I'll start researching how awesome their echolocation is. And then I start finding out, well, only these mammals do echolocation and these mammals don't. And which whales do and which whales don't. And then I just go on this whole, I try to tease out what I think would be best for kids and then leave the rest for delving into later. So there are a ton of things I haven't scratched the surface on but want to.
We can't ignore the plants. How do you describe the leaves, the shapes, the vines, the stems, the trunks, the branches?
Yes, and I think that plants are so overlooked. I think the kids always want to go to the zoo and they want to see the most dangerous animal, the biggest animal, the craziest animal. And the plants kind of get a background seat. So I've been working towards explaining how plants can prevent wildfire spreads, or plants help different animals, or how they protect us from storms, or which ones are carnivores. There's a lot of interesting plant facts out there.
The books that I looked at seem to have focused on animals and plants and ecosystems in the United States, but the world is gigantic, and we've got the oceans, and we've got mountains in many other continents, and wildlife everywhere. Are you going to be expanding? Is there some place that we should know more about?
Yes, and 100 times yes. I've been very lucky to have been able to travel, and I spent about a month in Africa, and I can't even wrap my head around all the amazing things I want to, put in a book about Africa. Just one day of information is an entire volume. But also just the garbage patch. I would love to do an entire book on the garbage patch and different ways that we can prevent it and what it's there, what's going on with it, and how we're looking at helping. And there are areas all over the world, like Guatemala. Guatemala has the most amazing variety of bats. You could go to Gatun Lake and see all these different species of bats. There's actually a bat institute there where they're studying them. So yes, all over the world there are definitely places, and I've got a bucket list of probably 50 different books ahead of what I've already been starting to work on.
In addition to the children engaging themselves in your coloring, games, activities, experiments, and getting some facts along the way, you are encouraging them to take action to help protect various species and ecosystems?
Yes, even something as simple as shell collecting can be a complete eye-opener where it comes to being environmentally aware, collecting shells that don't have critters in them, and knowing who to return and who you can take. And even the different beaches, state beaches, they all have different rules about what you can remove and what you can't. So just giving the exciting highlights of what to do if there's a jellyfish sting. That's exciting. That pulls them in. And then you can also mention that there's a rack line, and we don't want to clean the rack line because it feeds all these other animals, and all the different things that are happening at the beach that we want to protect and we want to preserve, and we don't want to pollute, and we don't want to take home.
Using the books, they're basically at home, but you want them to get out into the parks, the nature centers, the wild areas, and go on nature trails and learn more about these ecosystems in real life, and consequently you create a scavenger hunt. How does that work?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to access the book. They're available at many nature centers and visitor centers at different parks and places, so that people can find the book where the natural environment is. Especially here in Florida, we have plenty of beaches for the tourist population to come, and they've never been to a Florida beach before. And then here's a book that they can get at the visitor center that says, okay, this is dangerous and this is not dangerous, and this is what the stingray shuffle is, so that you don't get pierced by a stingray while you're at the beach today. But you can also do all of these things at home or while you're traveling, or just get excited about them. And many of my activities have little QR codes, which can take you to places that are citizen science sites where kids can actually actively help scientists do studies, or they take them to different websites like Audubon where they can hear the birds call. It provides a leaping off point on any of the materials, any of the topics that someone would find interesting. It gives them more information to kind of further that.
You are very much into the modern world of digital reading and digital activities, so they can get your books digitally rather than in hard copy. How do they do that?
I have a lot of different download sites that are available for educators and for parents, where they can look up the different activities that are in the books and actually download those information sheets. That way, if they're doing a field trip or they're having a camp activity, or parents want to take the children to a particular beach or a particular area of the country, they can go ahead of time and download all kinds of resource sheets so that they have specific activities to what they're going to be working on available right there. They just download the file, print them out, take them with.
You provide free activities. You also would love to have people purchase the books, but they need to find out more about it by going to your website?
Definitely. The website is the hub of activity of all of the things that I have cooking. And my website is www.krakensky.com.
And Kraken is spelled with a K, Krakensky.
Exactly.
What does Kraken mean?
Kraken is actually a legendary sea beast. It's a gigantic octopus that pirates used to be concerned about. And the reason I've kind of incorporated it into my logo is that the Kraken is obviously this huge, powerful animal, and it's got 8 arms. So I always feel like I'm doing 100 things at the same time. And sky, meaning the sky is the limit. I'm always working on something new. I'm always reinventing. I'm always creating. So Kraken Sky is multiple different areas that I'm working in, and the sky is the limit for all of them.
What is the Creative Brains Grow Here project?
Creative Brains Grow Here project is a kind of collaboration that I'm working on between science, educators, and artists. So I'm looking for artists who want to contribute interesting science materials for educators. So I take donations to be able to provide things free for educators, free downloads, and I'm also working with artists to try to get them to work on projects that can be replicated at different schools, like whether it's an interesting sculpture that reminds us to recycle, or if it's a layout, a fun graphic design layout of what to do if you find a bird on the ground. I'm trying to bridge kind of the science and art background.
I can't mention all 25 books, but Nature Unboxed was beautiful, Wildlife Unboxed, Florida Pirates Wildlife. What are some of the others?
Quite a few. I've got them centered around Channel Islands in California, and I've got some that are Florida here, the Florida Pirates that you mentioned, but also Florida Shells and Florida Wildlife. And the different Nature Unboxed and the Wildlife Unboxed books are doing really well because it's a smattering of a lot of different disciplines. So if someone was going to jump in someplace, I would say start with Nature Unboxed, or if your child is big into animals, do the Wildlife Unboxed. And from there, they kind of get a feeling of what they like, and then they can either go to my downloads website and download specific topics, or they can just keep going through the list.
You're a professional designer and artist for over 25 years, and you're a monthly columnist at Story Monsters, Inc. magazine since 2017. What's that about?
Story Monsters is a wonderful publication that goes to libraries and teachers and schools all across the country. The covers, if you go to storymonstersinc.com, you'll see all of the different people that we've been able to interview. I have my own interview column where I've been able to talk to some amazing different authors, illustrators, publishers, book retail store owners. It's a magazine for all things children's lit. Through working with them, I've gained quite an eye for what works, what doesn't, what kids gravitate towards, and that's been instrumental in my career.
I have my favorite animals like the mountain lion, the wild horses. Mm-hmm. If you were to take one of those species, how would you decide what kind of activity you would include for them, or why it might not be a game or a puzzle, or what kind of a science experiment would you provide?
I would go for the wild horses, and mostly because I lived out in Mojave for a while, and we had wild horses out there. So I would talk about the protection of the wild horses, how they're not to be harassed, how people shouldn't be going out there and feeding them things that they shouldn't eat, how people should keep their distance. But then I think I'd also like to really do a specific kind of focus on how they find water, how horses can smell water at a distance, how they can dig with their paws and find water, especially in such a climate as the desert. I think it would be kind of a fun thing for kids to learn.
You also talk about other aspects of our environment, such as fossils or the weather. What can we learn from these kinds of elements?
Well, the fossils are always fun because kids love to dig for fossils and find the little imprints and figure out what they came from, and dinosaurs were a huge thing for my daughter, so we're really into fossils here. I think that from fossils, we get a lot of information on patience. I think kids learn patience when they have to be very calm and careful. Digging out fossils, learning about fossils, I think that they also are able to compare and contrast. They work on their ability to observe different pieces of the fossil and what they could possibly represent. And the weather's kind of the same thing. You know, the weather here we have weather every day, and we get so used to looking at our cell phone or looking at the news and telling what the weather is going to be. But just to have an idea of what the clouds, when you look at a cloud, what that indicates. Does that mean that a storm is coming? Does that mean that we shouldn't go out to play today? How much rain are we getting? Is it unusual for this time of year? There are so many interesting things that both fossils and weather can teach us.
You have so much wonderful information. It's a pleasure to share your books. I encourage everybody to get copies, and whether or not they have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, or can go to a local school and share it with the youngsters. The adults will enjoy it as much as children. You also have free activities at www.teacherspayteachers.com/store/Krakensky.
Yes, but if you go to my website, krakensky.com, you'll see the links for everything. There are links for free downloads. There's links for more information. There's links for resources that I like. There's links to all of my Instagram and Facebook feeds. So going to krakensky.com is definitely a good place to start.
Thank you so very much for providing this wonderful environmental education material. I look forward to seeing your new publications. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. It's wonderful being here.
I have been speaking with Julianne DiBlasi, who is the owner, artist, and author at Krakensky and founder of the Creative Brains Grow Here project. I'm Nancy Pearlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Pearlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.